if you can bomb and know that you survive, you can do anything. We are not
Love it.
programmed to go stand in front of everybody. We are programmed to be in the group. So then you
Yeah.
go on stage in front of people, and then the lack of laughter is like our body processes that as a lack of acceptance. And you go into a bit of a fight or flight on stage. And if you can like work through that and still feel okay about yourself and still know that you live through an experience like that, oh my goodness, yeah, you could do anything.
Hello there, I'm your host, Tiffany Gleland, an Australian business and mindset coach with 10 years' experience in online marketing and the creator of the Business Bravery framework. I help coaches to be brave so you can sign more clients even if you hate marketing and sales feel icky. From signing your next paying clients through to launching that dream group coaching program, the Business Bravery framework helps you take bigger leaps without the mindset spirals. It's helped my clients double their investment in me, make thousands of dollars, and truly build their dream business. In this episode, I had the pleasure of chatting with Andrea Entz, who calls herself the professional expert for good reason. As a podcast manager, stand-up comedian, and voice actor, everything in her world falls into the category of self-expression, communication, emotion, and relationships. It's no surprise her BS is in psychology, and she loves working with therapists and mental health podcasters. When it comes to her life as a performer, Andrea produces comedy shows all over the Seattle area and is highly requested as a host for her energetic and friendly style of comedy. This has led Andrea to MC corporate events as well as Extreme Dogs at the Washington State Fair, one of her all-time favorite performances. She was named Best of the Festival at the 2022 Burbank Comedy Festival in Los Angeles and recently made the big move from Seattle to LA. With that said, this is an amazing episode and I can't wait to share with you Andrea's stories of business bravery, past, present, and future. Now, who's ready for some business bravery inspiration? Let's dive in. I am super excited to talk to my guest this week. I'm talking to the amazing Andrea Entz, who does amazing things in the world of podcasting and comedy. I'm so excited. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me and coming with all of your amazing stories of bravery, both business and life. I know we've got some plans to talk about all of the good stuff you have going on. And yeah, thank you. And tell us about a bit more about who you help and how you help, or in your life with your comedy as well, and what brave things you have going on right now.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, first of all. Really excited to be talking with you. Well, I'll start out with who I help. So in my entrepreneurial journey as a podcast manager, I help female entrepreneurs launch and manage their podcasts, specifically therapists and educators. I love working with therapists because we have a mental health crisis and a shortage of therapists in America. I don't know about the world, but I know in America. And so if we can use podcasts as a free resource to amplify the message of mental health education for as many people as possible, that's an excellent way to do it. I also joke that I love women who talk too much and I want them to talk even more and into a microphone. That's what I'm trying to do here, is just amplify voices, specifically of people who are traditionally told to sit down and be quiet. If Joe Rogan can talk for 3 hours, you get to have a 30-minute podcast once a week. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then in terms of, I mean, I guess I've never thought about my comedy in terms of who I help,
Yeah, I didn't phrase
but
that particularly well.
yeah, no,
Please
no, but I mean,
reinterpret that as a proper
but it's
question.
absolutely like, I think I particularly, I have historically been doing my comedy in rooms that are women and queer focused. They're typically like fringe indie type rooms. Those have very tight knit communities of support that I love to be a part of. But there's also, it's great to have those communities in your back pocket so that you can go to the clubs and the other spaces that aren't as supportive for women and just know that you have that community with you wherever you go. So my comedy is very much, that is my audience, like queer women. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can imagine like with the comedy, like in terms of like it might not necessarily be I don't know. I think comedy can be helpful. It like shines a light. We get to laugh at the same time, but it sort of shines a light on things, right? Would you say, or am I
Oh,
overthinking it?
I
Mm.
I mean,
Mm.
you saying it is good because if I say it, then I sound like I'm a hero. So it's good that you're saying it. I absolutely think comedy can be helpful. I know it's been
Mm.
helpful for me community wise, and
Yeah.
laughter is so good for our bodies and our nervous systems and to process what's going on in the world and in our lives. I absolutely think comedy
Yeah.
is helpful for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I know, like, I mean, I'm keen to talk about this because it's something that I want to do in my future is like get on a stage and do comedy, but like not necessarily professionally, but just like do it a few times and some of that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like the thing is, like, I know there's lots of people listening who are like they have no plans to do that, but we're all in our businesses having to get up on stages, and that's part of why I wanted to sort of do a bit more in comedy. So it's like I can work in some of my humor and my perspective and things like that into what I do just like as a business owner, and then obviously get over that hurdle of like if you can like normally when you get on stage for comedy the first time you tend to bomb, right? It's like
Mhm.
that's tends to be the story, and I don't expect to necessarily be different to that, but like going through that is like then it might be easier to one day get on a TEDx
Yes.
stage or some of those things, kind of sort of my
Yes.
thinking. Yeah.
If you can bomb and know that you survive, you can do anything because
Yeah.
that is, we are biologically, evolutionarily, is that a word? We are not
Love it.
programmed to go stand in front of everybody. We are programmed to be in the group. So then you
Yeah.
go on stage in front of people, and then the lack of laughter is like, our body processes that as a lack of acceptance. And you go into a bit of a fight or flight on stage. And if you can like work through that and still feel okay about yourself and still know that you live through an experience like that, oh my goodness, yeah, you could do anything. And especially like those TEDx performances are so enhanced by
Mm.
moments of humor. I think there's absolutely, I think everybody could benefit from stand up. And if not stand up,
Mm.
improv.
Mm.
Improv, I feel like, is even more accessible for
Yeah.
anybody because some people don't want to go up by themselves, but they want to like get some of those performance skills. I'm
Mm.
thinking about trying improv. I've done it a couple times,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I got bit by a bug a couple days ago that I'm like, think I might
Mm.
want to do improv.
Oh my God. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, I like the idea. I mean, I know, like you see in a lot of like movies, they make fun of the person who does improv and stuff, but actually, like, I really like it. I think like, I like the idea of it. Not that I've done much or any of it, but like the idea of just having to think on your feet and just go with what everyone's imagining. Like, I have a very wild and vivid imagination all the time. So it's just like to be in that space and play that out. And then I can imagine like the next time I'm having to go to like a business networking event and I have to come up with conversation, it's might be easier because I've already been in that place where I have to think on my feet. I kind of have a thing where my brain goes blank when people ask me questions and things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And there's so many improv groups that will just go into, corporations, company lunchrooms and
Yeah.
train folks on improv so that exactly that, like everything is improv. Everything is yes
Mm.
and it all comes back to like trusting yourself.
Mm.
Trusting and even trusting when you don't have something that something will come and that the
Mm.
silence is okay
Yeah.
because you know you'll be held. And improv definitely gets a bad rap. And I think it's because improv people, it's so vulnerable. They do not care what anybody else thinks. Like it takes a lot of
Mm.
vulnerability to go be that silly in
Yeah.
front of total strangers and
Mm.
like try and fail that many times. And so I think it's almost like the cool thing to be like, improv is so stupid. Like, what are they doing? It's not cool. It is not a
Mm.
cool guy behavior to be
Yeah.
in front of people like pretending to be
Mm.
a dog.
Yeah. But do you think like with like sort of the way like TikTok and all of that has kind of come into, like for so many people, do you think like that would be the same for the younger generations and things like that? Because I feel like TikTok was also that thing that everybody was like, oh, as if you dance on, and now there's just more and more people joining that every day. Or am
Do
I? have a skewed perception of it because I'm just surrounded with it and I just don't even think twice about it. Not that I've danced online, but pretty much everything else but.
Actually, I was kind of thinking the same thing because I feel like so many online entrepreneurs, we have all had to get over that hump of being cringe online. And it
Yeah.
is just kind of second nature to me now that I'm like, why wouldn't I
Yeah.
post a weird video of me, attempting to wax my own face? Why wouldn't I do that? You know? But I don't know. I think there's always an element of young people thinking older people are not cool and like just
Mm,
being cool kids, like I hear that from
yeah.
my friends who do substitute teaching that they're like, I only want to do elementary because every time I go to the high school and middle school,
Oh,
they immediately decide if I'm cool or not. And I can't handle it, you know?
I didn't think there was any world where a high school kid could even possibly think a substitute teacher is cool. Like the very idea that you're the substitute means like, oh, we get to try everything, we get away with more.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I think if you're going into subbing or if you're going into improv, especially even more than stand up, you should just accept, or even if you're marketing yourself online, you should
Yeah.
just accept you're not cool. And that there's so much freedom in that. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's like a lack of, you're free from the judgment when you're just like,
Yeah.
I'm not cool and I'm not trying to be cool. Here I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
stand up, there is, which is, I actually feel like sometimes I align more with improvisers and theater kids than I do with stand up comedians because they're for there are all kinds of comedians
Mm.
because there's all kinds of stories to share,
Yeah.
but there is an element of like cool, like too
Mm.
cool in stand up
Yeah.
comedy, which is so wild. Like I don't get it, and I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting actually because I was just thinking like pretty much like for the people who are trying to be cool, I I don't really see too many people who are actually putting themselves out there and willing to fail. Like that whole I'm so cool means that they're probably not pursuing their dreams in the most part. I think anybody who's really like, hey, I have a dream and a passion I want to pursue, then like they're in a different zone. And I think, yeah, I think that that whole being cool thing and just even being held back by other people who are like being cool and judging, I think that just stops you from like living the best life and the dreams and the passions and the bravery. Anyway, I'm getting
caring
excited.
caring about I'm getting excited,
Yeah.
but I'm trying not to interrupt you because I know how Zoom mutes people. Caring about anything passionately
Mm,
isn't cool.
mm,
So if you're going to decide to care about something, you have to let go of the coolness. It's a constant battle, I will say, inside though. I actually, a lot of my comedy right now is about how
mm,
I am not cool, but I try very hard to be way cooler than I am. So I have this whole bit about how I'm like, I've never been a cool kid. I've always been a theater kid at heart, like
mm.
tap, I'm not literally tap dancing, but metaphorically tap dancing in front of all my classmates. And so I have this bit right now where I say, like, I try to be cool. So, like, I'll try to gamble, but I only play bingo.
So awesome. I love that.
where,
Yeah.
where I'm just like, I try to be like on the edge, but my version of the edge
Yeah.
is like not anywhere near the actual edge.
Yeah. Coaches, are you showing up online, posting, creating reels, sharing your coaching offers, but still not signing enough clients? You are not alone. For so many new and newly established coaches, creating content is one thing, but creating content that actually connects and converts, that's the missing piece. That's why I created the One Sentence Stories Workshop, a live interactive Zoom session where you'll learn how to use simple but powerful storytelling to create content with clients in mind. We'll upgrade your IG bio, create promo content together, and give your reels and stories a messaging boost so you leave with content ready to post and a repeatable system to turn content into clients. It's happening April 30th or May 1st in Australia, and it's only $49. But podcast listeners get it for just $24 with the code STORIES25. This is the beat around, and I might not offer it at this price again. Grab your spot now at bit.ly/stories April 30 Bravery. That's all lowercase, no spaces, no underscores, and you can find the link in the show notes. And there is a 100% 30-day money back guarantee. Oh my God, you're in good company there actually, because like for me, yeah, my edges, like, like years ago it was this whole thing about, oh, oh, you're so basic, and I was like, oh God, am I basic? And now I'm just like, you know what, I am, and I don't care.
Oh man, I felt relief in my body as you said that. Really, like,
Yeah.
and I do feel like being online, which with entrepreneurship, there is an element of being online a lot. I feel
Mm,
like you're constantly consuming 10 million different opinions on an angle on an issue or on a
mm,
stance in life about being basic or not being basic, or are you being too cool, or are you not being cool enough, you know?
yeah. Mm,
And it's like the constantly in my head, just like, well, this person said this, well, this person. And I had a very wise person in my life who constantly says, what does Andrea think? What
yeah.
does Andrea think? You know?
Hmm.
And I try to come back to that. I try to come back to that. Because if you are just in that headspin, you'll never
Yes.
take action. And it's
Mm,
actually really affects my stand up. I can tell if I'm in a headspin of, oh my gosh, I have an instinct to say this funny thing, but I might offend that audience member, or that audience member might not think it's funny. Then
oof.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying the thing. And I'm on stage kind of in a word salad trying to please every audience member. When really, if I would have just said the thing,
Mm.
they would have laughed or they wouldn't, and we'd move on.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. The power of that. Just even as you were talking about that, like I was thinking about, for me, I've got years of people pleasing behavior behind me. And I can just imagine, like, if I'd have tried to attempt comedy, like before I found, oh my God, this is going to sound so cliched, before I found my Bravery era, and, it's like, it has literally changed a lot and helped me with the, people pleasing. But if I'd have tried to do it a couple of years ago when I still had those very strong people pleasing instincts, I would have probably bombed harder, because like part of being a comedian is choosing a stance, choosing something that is different and funny, and yeah,
Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
can potentially offend people, and
Hmm.
yeah. Oh my
It,
God, so
it
and
it has
it's
to
so
have
scary.
it has to
Sorry.
have a stance. And honestly, Tiffany, you're naming the exact thing that I struggle with in my stand-up. And to be honest, I started stand-up when I was 21. Like I have it has been a
Yeah.
medium for me to practice and work through this people pleasing part of
Ooh,
myself, because that is how I have done stand-up for
yeah.
a long time, what I just described.
Yeah.
And it's only recently that I've started to slow down, think about what I think is funny, and
Mm,
like stand strong in that. I'm not saying I'm perfect at that. It's
yeah.
something I'm aiming for. It's
Mm,
something I would like every time I do stand up, but it's only through the doing that I get
yeah.
better at it. I
Mm,
can't like go, okay, I have to get perfect at not people pleasing before I take action.
oh yeah.
It only gets better every time I attempt, you know?
Mm, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and actually, like as you're talking about it, I kind of think about like my own experiences with photography, in terms of like when you're learning the craft of anything, you're probably really kind of more, like influenced, or like at least in photography terms, you're kind of copying before you work out exactly who you are and like what makes you different. And then like I'm just seeing the parallels with business, and it's the same, like
Hmm.
when we start businesses and things, it's like, yeah, we're really, we're following others and sort of going, oh, does this fit me, does that fit me? And then at some point it's like you make those decisions around, okay, here's where I stand on this, here's where I'm different and my unique personality. And oh my God, sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anytime that I've heard from any artist who's down the line in
Yeah,
their creation is like, of course, the first step is copying. How else are you going to
yeah,
learn,
yeah.
to do because you have to learn the rules to break the rules, you know,
Yes.
period. Drop the
Yeah.
mic. Okay. I actually am going to put my phone on do not disturb. I forgot to do that. If we can pause for a moment, you can edit this out, right?
Yeah. Oh, now you're on mute though, if that's what you meant to do.
Is that better?
Yeah, now you're back.
Okay. 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 Cool,
I can
cool,
see
cool.
you and hear you again. All right.
Thank you.
good. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've forgotten what we were talking about. We were getting into some of
We
the
were talking
parallels.
about,
Yeah, the parallels
yes.
between like copying first and then deciding who you are. And those parallels also go into as a business owner, because like being part of starting a business is it's creation, and it follows that
Mhm.
arc in terms of, copying first and then here's who I am. And oh my God, yeah, definitely.
I would say actually that's very similar to the art, the thing that made me start my business. That is the philosophy that I took, not necessarily copying and then evolving, but what's that saying about starting before it's ready and then
Yeah.
evolving as it goes? Like you
Mhm.
can't wait till it's perfect to start it. I remember starting my business and going, I don't think virtual assisting is exactly what I want to do, but I don't know how the heck to do any of this online entrepreneur entrepreneurship. So I'm going to start somewhere and I
Mm.
will find what interests me along the way and then I'll
Yeah.
pivot. And that's
Yes.
what happened was then I found, well, I was doing some social media management and that just wasn't aligned with me. But because I'm
Yeah.
also a voice actor, I already knew how to edit audio and I love editing audio. So then when
Mm.
I found podcast management,
Yeah.
I could marry my creative world and my
Mm.
business, my entrepreneurship world, and then I pivoted,
Yeah.
and so eventually I did find, but you don't find that out just from looking at from the
Oh,
outside in,
yes. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
the same way that I
Absolutely.
changed my major 5 times in college.
Me too. Not just my major, I changed degrees 3 times.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. Anytime somebody's like embarrassed that they took more than 4 years, I'm always like, you did great, okay? Like
Yeah.
the purpose, I always felt like the purpose of going to university in the first place was a safer space to explore all of that
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
in kind of a bubble. Why not? That's why you're
Mm.
there, you
Yeah.
know?
I agree with that 100%. Okay, so this has been an amazing conversation so far. However, I haven't really sort of stuck to the framework because I've been having
Oh,
fun talking about all this stuff.
I
But
hope that's
yeah, like,
okay.
yeah, no, no, I love it. I love it. I just thought I would maybe sort of try
Sure.
and shoehorn the framework in late. But yeah, like what brave things are you working on in your life and business right now? I know we talked a little bit before we started and you're kind of in a transitional phase, and I'm
Hmm.
really excited to explore that if and with your permission before we hit record, we did that
Yeah.
before. So yeah. Mm.
So I personally feel like every single thing I do in my life right now is brave. Every
I
day,
love it.
every day I feel like I'm like, okay, what are we doing today? Okay, take a deep breath and put your shoes on. We're doing it. Whether it's comfortable or not. I lived in Washington State my whole life. And then I made the brave decision a couple months ago to move to Los Angeles, which has been my lifelong dream. Oh, I feel emotional saying that because I feel so proud that I did that. I mean, I packed up my car, I drove it down here. I
Mm.
coordinated figuring out this sublet so I could afford to live here. Like it was such a I made my business flexible so I could come down here. Like it was such a feat, honestly, to pull it off in the first place. So that is the biggest, bravest thing I've done recently. And now being here, creating community, going out and doing something new, meeting new people, like that is every day like my brave
Mm.
life right now. Like
Yeah.
that's the name of the book right now, My Brave Life. And it's slower moving than I was anticipating. I thought I was going to come down and jump straight into comedy, but what I learned is I needed it to be slower than I was anticipating, that I have needed to rest a bit more. I've needed to slow down, that this has just been like a lot, kind of. And so, because I'm like, oh, this is a lot, continuing forward every day, doing something and remaining here
Mm.
through it being a little bit hard,
Yeah.
that's the brave thing right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like these kinds of transitions in life, they are sometimes bigger than we expect. And sometimes like our body or just, yeah, how we respond is like, oh, actually, we kind of maybe need to go slower and adjust and all of that good stuff. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I appreciate that feeling, like the manifesting generator in me is like, oh, I can see the vision. Why isn't it here now? What do you mean I have to go slow?
Yes. And to be honest, it is quadrupled by
Mm,
the industry that I'm in is
yeah.
a grind, 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 and figure it out before you're 30 culture. And that is because because
Mm,
I come at performance from a mental health background and a take care of yourself and your body background. That is not what a lot of actors and comedians are doing.
yeah.
And so I am having to actively be here in this culture, actively telling, what does Andrea think? You
Mm,
know, Andrea thinks I need to
yeah.
go home and sleep, and
Yeah.
not go to an open mic tonight. Andrea thinks, my priority is my health right now while I build the
Mm,
foundation of,
yeah.
my life here. It is helped by I'm meeting so many people. Right now, I'm in a stage of I'm very much enjoying meeting new people and asking them about what their journey has been here, like
Mm,
where they came from and how they transitioned here. And almost every person I meet is
yeah.
like, it took me a year to 5 years to actually feel like it was picking back up to a speed that it was at home. And
Mm,
like that, I felt acclimated to this city. So
yeah.
that has felt
Yeah.
really like I can let my
Mm,
shoulders down.
yeah. 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 Oh my gosh. So it's it's really interesting how you talk about the pressure of if like this is probably my words more than yours, but I feel like everybody else is doing all the things and there's all these
Yes,
opportunities, and yet actually like I need to slow down for my mental health and my
yes,
health. And that's the same thing that I've been going through on the entrepreneurial side with my business for years, especially managing chronic pain and all that stuff. I've just come out of another flare up of that. And like it can be so easy to see and find all of these examples of these people who are like doing all the things and pushing it to the end and everything like that.
yes,
How
yes.
do you, like, I know you said like you need to come back to what does Andrea want, but in those, I don't know if it happens for you, but for me, it's like, yeah, this is what I need to do. But then there's that little voice that's like,
Yes.
but are you sure? Because like maybe this is the thing that's gonna like, you know, like, how do
Oh,
you do it?
absolutely. Honestly, right now, again, listening to people's stories and reading memoirs of people, like right now, I'm rereading Tina Fey's book. And I
No.
would say she probably started when she was pretty young, so I don't know if she's a great example, but reading these stories of people who are doing what I want to be doing and are way down the line with it reminds me that there is so much time. Tina Fey
Yeah.
is what, in her 50s?
Mm, yeah.
And I guess the idea of like, oh, you can still there's so much time between now and that for me that
Yeah.
like just rereading those stories and like I saw a video of Heidi, I don't know her name, but she was on Saturday Night Live, Heidi something, and she was talking about how she came here, had no interest in comedy at all, was a hairstylist, and then when she was like 31, tried improv for the first time, and then she was on
Mm,
Saturday Night Live. So trying to remind myself like there's no one path by
mm,
listening to, by reading all
yeah.
about these various ways you can do it and that the timelines are different for everybody. One thing I say constantly is Alan Rickman did not start acting till he was 42. And another thing, honestly, that has been coming up a lot for me lately is if I had a daughter and she was
Mm.
coming to me with this, what would I say to her?
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
that whenever I have a thought that's, I want to make sure that my kids have X, Y, and Z, I want to make sure that I do X, Y, and Z for my kids. That's what you want to do for yourself. That's what that
Yeah.
message is from your brain. That's what you wished you had as a kid. So give it to yourself. Be your
Yeah.
own internal mother. So I'm like doing a lot of reparenting, going, hey, internal daughter of mine, you do need to sleep. You do need to
Mm,
put your phone down before bed. You have to take care of yourself. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So that phrase, what would I say if my
Mm.
daughter came to me with this?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. And man, all this stuff that you're talking about is like giving me chills because I do the same stuff, although from like more of the business side of things. But for me, like I'm already in my 40s. So yeah, I have to like my stories are like people like Ariana Huffington who didn't start HuffPost until she was 50 and things.
I
So
I love that.
finding those stories because as it gets closer to the real middle age or whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, it's
But it's so
the
wild to me
voices.
that what I hear with I share and then you share the same feeling is that the pressure of time is, I think for some people, pretty universal in
Yeah.
that what is everybody else doing and I'm running out of time. And to be honest, I actually think it's a big pressure for women because there is something, I don't know if you have children, but for me, I'm like, okay, not if I want to have the two
Mm.
versions of life, if I want to have the career and then my family, I got to get
Yeah.
my career done by, or at
Yes.
least started by this time so then I can do that. And I
Yeah.
was like, I was listening to the Smart List podcast today, and Will Arnett was like, yeah, I'm
Mm.
50, my son's 2 years old. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
have no pressure of time. You
Not the
have
same.
no pressure of time. It's not the same. And when, not to say that I'm actively thinking about, oh my God, I have to have kids tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
just there is something about for women
Yes. Yeah.
that,
There's a clock on it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also,
Mm.
not only just the children part, but also the hormonal part of when is
Yeah.
the energy going to give out on me? When is you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I try
Actually.
really hard. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, sorry. No,
I,
keep
I
continue. Yeah.
just like, I
Mm.
try really hard. I think what we learned in the pandemic is we cannot keep this way we have been living is not sustainable. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like this
Mm.
grind culture is not sustainable. And I don't know, Tiffany, you tell me. I'm trying still to figure out how to keep reminding myself, like, I have to take care of myself. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually now like my body has its own reminders. So it's like, oh, feel that, that twinge in your lower back. Well, because I have like back problems and things like that. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yep, yes, I haven't been doing my exercises and looking after myself. And it's like, yep, yep, yep. So I have some of those and it helps now that I'm a bit more in tune with my body than I used to be, because those things I used to just ignore. And yeah, you
Hmm.
get to you get to an age where you can't keep doing that because otherwise, it's just yeah.
Well, speaking of that, I will say, like, an indicator for me that I need to slow down or it's time for a nap is honestly the same
Mm,
indicators that children have.
yeah.
When children are hyperactive and they're getting the zoomies, they are overtired. So if I
Yeah.
am talking a mile a minute and I can't stop talking and I'm like, oh, girl, go lay down, close your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You are not alone in that. And same thing. Yeah. Man. Yes. Okay. Oh, there was something that you said before, and I wanted to say something. I'm sure it was gold, but now I've forgotten. Okay.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yes, yes, it will. But yeah, oh, that was it. The in my younger years, that whole the pressure of the clock of the kids, and I don't have kids. It's not how life worked out for me, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, it was definitely there was the pressure, and then there was also the thoughts around like, like how much of the household workload am I going to have to take on? How's that going to impact my career and my career dreams and things like that? Now that I'm older and that story has passed, but there's still the impacts of aging of like, now I'm following my dreams and am more like online and you can see my face. And at some point, my youthful good looks are gonna like, there's that whole feeling of like, and I don't want to perpetuate this, but there is this stuff in my mind about women have a shelf life. I don't think it's going to stay that way, and I don't want it to stay that way. I'm going to be actively, working against that. But there's still some of those little whispers in my mind of like, there's always some reason to find a time pressure. Sorry, you're trying to talk and I'm talking too much. Right.
No, you're saying all the greatest things. I'm actually, that is one of the things I was thinking as well, especially in an industry that's very driven off of what look like. I'm very aware about what I
Mm.
look like, about what I might look like one day. Um, and that's a lot of pressure. And sometimes I consider not doing any of this because of that particular pressure, because that is awful.
Yeah.
And you're reminding me of the Guilty Feminist podcast. Have you heard of this?
Oh,
It,
no. Oh my
it's a
gosh. I need to write that down.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a podcast out of the UK. And she talks about the whole thing is being a feminist, trying to dismantle the patriarchy and a being influenced by the patriarchy at the same time. So while you are trying to dismantle that looks don't matter, you
Yeah.
still exist in a world that looks matter in. So
Yeah.
it doesn't exist in a vacuum, you know.
Mhm.
It's very difficult to
Mhm.
navigate.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And actually, just as you put words to that whole, I don't know, that those two competing elements, like everything just relaxed in my body and it was like, oh yeah, that's how that is. It's not, I'm not alone. And that's
No, yeah.
here's the dichotomy, the issue. Yeah.
And I will go, oh, I'm a bad feminist because I do care about what I look like in the, for this podcast recording. Oh, I'm a bad feminist because, X, Y, and Z. No,
Yeah.
you're a woman
Yeah.
existing in the world,
Yes.
you know? So I hope that's the relief that that gave you.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's yeah, definitely being bound by like that's the way the world is at the moment and yeah, then having to try and change it and things like that. Oh, okay.
Is this all good or am I going too far off
Oh, I'm
into the
happy.
ether?
No,
Okay, okay,
no, I
cool.
think all of this stuff, like this is what we have to contend with as business owners, and like I think it's all relatable to my mind. Like, yeah, like this is what we have to go through, and like this is what so many of us go through in order to put ourselves out there online to be brave and to build our businesses and things. So yeah,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. To me, it works. Like I like where
Okay,
it's going.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, so then with all of these changes and the transition that you're having, what kind of transitions and maybe brave steps or impacts is this having on your business and
Mm-hmm.
things like that? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mm,
the transition down here has kind of to Los Angeles has kind of started a ripple effect in my life of other personal life transitions that have impacted my income or my future income. And I am now in a position where I now have to go get a 9 to 5 in addition to my business. So I'm navigating what that looks like, what I want it to look like, what will my business look like? Will there be a business? I have every intention of keeping the clients that I have right now. Will I be able to grow it? And we were talking earlier about the bravery element of that. Like I have so much fear around, yeah, what will happen to my business? What will happen to my availability to do cool podcasts in the middle of the afternoon? You know what I mean? And that definitely scares me. Doing this whole period of life kind of scares me right now. However, honestly, the themes that we're talking about right now, I keep having to come back to is my number one priority is my safety,
mhm.
physically, emotionally, and income is tied to that.
Yeah.
So I got to go get me some income, and because of the timeline of the events happening in my personal life, I don't have a lot of wiggle room to keep building my business. It needs to be like, I need income and I need it now.
Yeah.
And what I keep coming back to is, and I think so many people who are doing online entrepreneurship are faced with this sometimes of, oh my gosh, do I have to go get a day job? So many actors I know, voice
Mm,
actors I know, like this is something they
yeah.
have to do. Comedians who they're like balancing daytime 40 hour and nighttime going to these shows and they're exhausted. But I keep coming back to nothing is permanent.
Mm, yeah.
This is part of it. And to be honest, how much better of a business owner will I be with my basic needs accounted for? How
Mm,
much better of a performer can I be when I can afford to take the improv class, when I can afford to get the camera to get the really nice clip so that I, go viral on TikTok? So that I think I hadn't been thinking about it as a brave step. I actually genuinely am very frustrated that this step has to happen. And this is a part of the non-linear nature of our lives and our businesses,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and there is this idea perpetuated online on our Instagram, at least on what from what
Mm,
I see, that our lives are only our businesses and we only do that and that's our only income. And for some people that is true
hmm
100% of the
Yeah.
time. For some people that's true for a couple years. For some people, it's true at different. That's not true for everybody. That is a
Yeah.
wonderful thing to present, but it is not true for everybody. And so maybe the brave thing is sharing right now on this podcast that there is other income that I got to go get. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but like I love that step because I mean, like I think more people need to know that like that is a step you can take and that if like like it's not it doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It just means like rather than having the pressure of because like there's nothing worse than having the pressure of, oh my God, I need money now. Where's the clients now? Like
Yeah,
you will never sign clients when you're in that sort of
correct.
phase, right?
Yes.
And
If
I
I could
think,
do it over again, I would
yeah,
never have quit. I mean, I would have quit the job I was at, but I would have supplemented with a part-time job the whole time because
yeah,
you're exactly right that
yeah,
space I can't,
yeah,
you can't afford coaching when that's happening. You can't
mm,
afford to invest in the great copywriter for your website when that's happening.
mm,
It's just scarcity, scarcity, scarcity. And it's not
yeah,
great for
yeah.
you. It's not great for your business, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, like I had a part-time day job for like the first 6 years of running my business and working out what I'm doing and all the pivots and everything like that. And it was great to just have that feeling of like, oh, there's more money coming in and I've got room to make mistakes.
Yes.
And then I went full time in my business, like where it was my main focus. Like I don't do 40 hours a week, but it's my main focus in 2021. And I immediately had so many mindset wobbles of like, oh my gosh, like now I have to go out and get the clients. And because as soon as I went full time in my business, I lost two regular clients who'd been clients of mine for years within the same month. It was like the universe was like, are you sure? And I'm like,
Oh, yeah. And
and
sometimes there's the universe being like, I'm testing you, and sometimes it's a message. And I will be honest, right now, I feel like I'm receiving a universe message. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the same thing. There was some personal things that kind of
Yeah,
got shaken up.
yeah,
And then there were clients that just fell off. And the other thing I've learned too,
yeah.
podcasting and business slows down in the summer because a lot of online entrepreneurs are mothers and their
Mhm.
kids are at home.
Yeah.
Podcasting, especially, is a cherry on top type of
Mm,
thing for a lot of people. And
yes.
so if you're at home with your kids and all of a sudden you're having to navigate your business and your vacations and your kids' activities, you're trimming the fat in the summer. So
Mm.
you're exactly right. I don't think this is that I've done anything wrong. I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
it's personal at all. I think
Yeah.
it is just the nature of the business during the summer, which is
Mm.
the business
Yeah.
lesson I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Although I suppose like there could be certain podcasters who like, they have like they do the big launches, they get the money in, and yes, they might take that time off, but they'd be happy to keep the podcast rolling out and invest in someone like you. So like there's
Oh,
always someone.
yeah,
Yes.
for sure. And I will say, I recommend to people, especially people who are like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Running my business is already a lot. I recommend doing seasons because that way they know there's a set number they're working towards. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and then they can reevaluate at the end of the season.
Mm.
They can,
Yeah.
everything always feels better when you're like, oh, it's for this set amount of time, you
Yes.
know, you know, because as much as I love podcasting, it is work,
Mm.
and so it feels better for people when they're like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not an intangible far off forever,
Mm,
you know.
yes, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting actually, because like a lot of my like the podcasters who I've followed, like you see them putting them out like every week. And but of course, like they have a team and people to help them. And I think you're definitely right about the seasons. I've had like unintentional production breaks. So accident
Mm-hmm.
perhaps you might call it. But yeah, like, I think it would be easier because then, like, because while I'm focusing on the podcast, I think some other things drop off. And it's like with that seasons, then other things in the business, like creating new like programs or, things, some of that more project work.
Right.
Yeah.
That is like the biggest thing about being an entrepreneur that has taught me that it's like what is your priority right now? Because there's a big long list of things you want to
Yeah.
do in your business and your life, but those might be like 5-year plan lists. What's your priority today, this
Yeah.
quarter, And so maybe it's podcast, maybe it's another project. Oh, you were saying unintentional breaks. Oh, and that other people have a team, that other podcasters have a team.
Mm.
That is another thing with this whole transitional period and being in LA, seeing people who are hugely successful or, have so much money or whatever they have that I perceive I don't have. It's exactly that. I think even last night I was there, I met a gal who went to NYU Tisch School of the Arts, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
And her first job was at writer's assistant at Saturday Night Live. And I was immediately jealous and immediately comparing myself to her because I'm just a poor boy from a poor family, Freddie Mercury. I'm like, my resume has like state school, regular schmegular training, theater training,
Mm.
regular schmegular,
Yeah.
food service jobs,
Yes.
And so here the comparison trap can be even more. And so at first I fell into the trap and then
Mm.
I went, actually, I think I'm jealous and comparing because I think she's really cool and that we could be friends. And because
Mm.
I'm in that lane or heading towards that lane. And I'm
Yeah.
going to actually just be friends with this girl instead because I see something in her
Yeah.
that I admire,
Nice.
but I had to tell myself to go back to the reason I brought that up.
Mm.
I hear those things and I go, oh my God, well, they're doing X, Y, and Z. They're able to do this all night. They're able to run their business online. They're already how many followers on Instagram and they're influencers. Well, did they go to NYU and their parents paid for it? Did they have an
Yeah.
internship because they could live at home?
Mm.
Did they have support that you maybe don't have? Is
Hmm.
there a metaphorical team,
Yeah.
in their support system? That's why. So, girl, don't be comparing yourself to taking breaks from your podcast because
Yeah.
there's a team over there.
Mm. Oh
And
yeah.
that's an illusion, right? I'm not telling you, I'm telling Andrea,
Oh yeah.
but it's
No,
an
no,
illusion,
I'm
right?
there. Yeah.
There's teams behind all of this, like whether it's a team or other types
Mm.
of support.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of course they have that, their dad owns Verizon. Of course they have the new phone. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. And I've definitely experienced that like on the entrepreneurship side too. Like it's funny, so many mirrors of these things. But, where it's just the fact of like you see these people, but they've just been doing things for so many more years than I
Yes.
have. And like even though I have like a background in online marketing for 10 years, I've been running my business since 2017. However, like I haven't necessarily been putting myself out there and doing the podcasting
Mhm.
thing or these sorts of things. So like it can just be so easy to see someone who's just been doing it for so much longer. And then yes, they have more resources to play with because yeah.
Yes,
Or you see,
exactly.
yeah, sorry, or you see like the the weird coach who's like, and then I went, what is it? After 6 months, I went full time in my business and had six figures and all that sort of stuff. But then when you look, it's like actually they had what 15 years of sales experience before that ever happened. So it's like, oh, they
And
have
they
some
probably
sort of
had
yeah,
exactly resources. They probably got so many bonuses from the sales that they were able to invest in that's what I've learned in this is like businesses don't start from scraps. They start from investments for the most
yeah,
part. There's definitely some like I definitely just started virtual assisting with
yeah.
nothing. You can,
Mm,
but those big multi-million, like
yeah,
claiming they made all these numbers, those are because they're able to invest in multi-million dollar
yeah,
programs, or
yes.
however much it is. Exactly right though about time as well. I'll do the same thing with business and I'll
Hmm.
do it with performance where I'm like, they're on Broadway, they're
Yeah.
headlining at the Comedy Store. Yeah, they've lived here for 20 years.
Hmm. Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. Gosh, yeah. I had that on the photography side too. Like I like all of these things that I'm doing, I came to later in life. And because I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was younger, and yeah, safety, security, all that sort of stuff. And it's just like sometimes like you'd see someone and they're like amazing in their craft or whatever. It's like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, they knew what they wanted to be at 6 or 10 or 12,
Oh,
16.
I remember,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm interrupting
Yeah.
you.
No, please.
There was a girl I went to, like I said, I grew up in a town, a very small town where we didn't have a theater department. Like there was not
Yeah.
Broadway bound art school. Like we were not doing that. There was a girl who her mom took her out of school because she was training for ice skating at like 10 years old on, and she needed time to go train for ice skating. And
Yeah.
like that was so wild to us growing up. But like if you think about it, like, yeah, exactly. Why is so and so the ice skating championship? Yeah, because she started when she was 10, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's like,
You
yeah,
don't
she's had
compare
20
yourself
years of
to,
experience. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that goes back to, I don't know if we said this on the recording or pre-recording at this point, but that goes back to my thing I have to keep telling myself about as I'm looking down the barrel of having to go get this full-time job. My
Yeah.
brain is going, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all this time in my business and in my performance art. And then I'm when I hear stories like, I don't know what made me think of this that we were just talking about.
No,
Oh,
no,
when
go
I hear
ahead.
stories of, okay, the comedy headliner who's been here for 20 years, I
Yeah.
have to remember like, hey, think about where you'll be in
Yeah.
X amount of time. You know, think about how, Heidi from SNL was a hairstylist, and for those 6 years, it probably felt like a lot of time, but looking back, it was a blip.
Yes.
Did we already say this? I don't know if we said this on the recording.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If we
think we,
did, you
I
can cut this out.
think we did. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right. Yeah. But I think that definitely makes the point though about that whole, yeah, the feeling of time and that kind of thing. Because like really, time, it's sort of this is cliche, it's an illusion, but it's like it's just our thoughts about time that puts
Yeah.
all the pressure on. I mean, I know like for me for years, like I started every day with I don't have enough time, I'm behind, I'm behind, I'm behind, I'm behind. And then that made me like make decisions that also made sure I was behind because like I'd try and do too many things at once or then I'd get overwhelmed and so then I'd procrastinate and all of that. And for all of these things, business, artistic pursuits and all that sort of stuff, just yeah.
I've definitely felt in a perpetual state of not having enough time my entire life, like as long as I can remember. Like I remember being a kid thinking this. So I don't know if
Oh,
that's for you, like if that's just like, oh no, I'm just an anxious baby, like that's my birthright, and partially why I'm a comedian. But that absolutely, that thought will keep me running out of my own time. I actually just heard somebody say if you want to make a lot of money, you should say, oh, wow, you should look at the number you want and then go, oh, wow, I only need only $20,000. Thinking about it as only, or if you were to rephrase maybe what you just said,
yeah.
look at how much time I have. Wow, I have
Yeah.
an hour. I have a whole hour. I
Yes.
only need $20,000. Like that starts to reframe it, I think, in your body too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's not the way that I see time now and how I interact with time now. But yeah, it's just like definitely like sometimes I still fall into those old habits of like because because like I don't know about you. I think we have some similarities in terms of like being multi-passionate individuals, seeing so many like being able to see the vision of like what life could be and how much fun it could be.
Absolutely.
It's still fun every day in the pursuit for me, but then there's also just like so many things I want to try and experience. And
Yes, I just want to experience all the things.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely multi-passionate and excited about life in general. Like, I honestly, I mean, this is the path that I have chosen doing, the performance and everything I'm doing, but I could see myself being happy in a lot of different
Mm,
careers and
yeah.
exploring different areas of life for sure. I also wanted to say, like, I'm excited to hear that you have a different relationship with time now because it
Mm,
gives me hope that I
yeah.
will also transform that. I feel like
Mm.
I'm on a nervous system journey. Like sometimes I'm like on it. I'm really like taking my baths and doing my yoga and breathing.
Mhm.
And sometimes I am not. And I have kind of felt, at least in the last couple weeks,
Yeah.
felt a little elevated. But you know what I mean? Like we're all on that, we're all in process, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like that makes sense too. Like you're going through some transitions and things like
Yes.
that. And there's also like, some exciting opportunities around you as
It's
well.
so
Like,
exciting. I will say, I don't know, the last week, I've just been like so fired up about possibility.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like looking at all the different jobs I'm applying for, and oh my gosh, what if I was at a full-time podcast studio? And what if I was doing
Yeah.
this job and I lived in this part of town? And, you know, what if I could take that
Mhm.
improv class? And, you
Yeah.
know, I absolutely think it's equal parts
Mhm.
stress of the transition
Yeah.
and genuine excitement for life right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I mean, like, that's some great signs that you're on the right path with like okay, yep, the 9 to 5 jobs and things like that, because like
Hmm.
it's a case of like you're seeing the possibilities and the excitement, and it's not like I have to get a job. It's I get to get a job, and that job unlocks all of these cool things and just makes me feel safe and secure and better. And I just
Yes.
completely understand that. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, the things I have been fantasizing about that it will unlock for me
Mm.
to have financially that I haven't had in recent history. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just like, I'm super jazzed about it. And to speak on universe right path things,
Mm.
I cannot tell you the universe signs that I have gotten since I have moved here. Can I tell you about one?
Yeah, love it. Yes,
So when
love it.
I moved here the first week and I was like emotional because it's so different and I'm gonna have to go and meet people. It was the first week that I was here. I was alone and I had not been living alone in my entire life. This is the first time I've ever lived alone. How about that for bravery?
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I was like, okay, we gotta go meet people. That's what we're doing. That's how we do this. That's how I've always done it. So
Yeah.
I went to a voiceover meetup of voice actors. I didn't know anybody. And the guy who was running it, who's kind of well known in the industry, was handing out the tickets and the pamphlets for whatever we were doing.
Mm.
And I was like, hey, I'm Andrea. I just moved here and I'm just here to meet people. And oh, where'd you move from? And I said, oh, Seattle. And he said he grew up in a town right by where I went to college. And then we end up finding out we both went to the same tiny state school, 2 states away. And we were bonding all about that. And I was like, wow, that is crazy that the first person I talked to in this town went to my college. It is not a big college.
Yeah.
And then later in the same day,
Mm.
I'm driving to dinner with my friend who I did graduate college with.
Yeah.
So she's down here from Washington. We were getting dinner, and this man walked by and he just started chatting. He was just being chatty. And then at the end, he looks at our license plate and sees it's a Washington license plate and goes, oh, my son in law lives in Bonnie Lake. That is the city I'm from, Tiffany. This city I'm from has 5,000 people in it.
Yeah.
For perspective, LA has 4 million.
Yeah.
And one of the people came up to me and said that their son lives in the town I'm from in the same day.
Yeah.
And I literally just looked at him and was like, I am where I'm supposed to be right now. That
Yes.
is the universe. And like the sun was setting and like the beautiful LA sunlight compared to Seattle, which is so dark.
Ooh.
I just was
Yeah.
like, oh my Lanta. Isn't that great?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that actually. Yeah. I spent time living in South Korea in my 20s teaching English and stuff like that. And I had one of those, I had so many of those kinds of moments, but one of them was like, I went to university in a small town here in Australia. And in Australia, like, most of our universities are kind of equal. It's all very like, federal government sort of, keeps everything equal. So, but yeah, I went to this university in a small town, and I'm in Korea, a city of 12 million people. And then like
Wow.
I met this guy who went to the same university as me, and then I managed to get him to fill in for me for 2 weeks so I could attend a wedding and stuff like that. But it's like Yes.
I cannot believe how many people are in that city.
Yeah.
That's a big city.
Yes, but it doesn't feel that way, like the way they have it organized and things like that. You've got your neighborhood areas, there's a few thousand, and like all of the big um like apartment buildings and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I love that.
I grew up in Sydney, which, had like 2 million people, or like, yeah, a million when I was a kid, and might have I think it's closer to 4 million now, maybe, or something. I don't know. It can't be as big as LA though, but yeah, anyway. So
I've never
yes.
been, but I really want to.
Yeah, it is. It's different. Like the way Sydney was created was, it's just like it's all windy streets. It's not planned. It's weird, but yeah, all part of the fun.
Are you in Sydney still?
No, I live in this small town where I went to university. I keep coming back here
Oh,
because the rent is cheap. My husband works at the university here. I used to work at the university here. It's a university town, and yeah.
that's the city I went to school in. Like a lot of people stayed, and
Mm.
it's just so beautiful. And sometimes I'm tempted to go back, but I won't. I won't. I told myself I would give myself. I have to stay for 2 years to really
Mm.
feel if I actually
Yeah.
like it, because it's very easy to feel like you don't want to be here in the first
Mm.
few
Yeah.
months,
Yeah. 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 Definitely with that transition and stuff for sure. Yeah. Ooh. Oh my gosh, we have talked about some amazing stuff, all of it sort of bravery related and all that kind of thing. Kind of as maybe like a finishing up question then. Like I know we haven't gone into all the cool stuff I wanted to, but I've enjoyed the conversation nonetheless, and I
Okay,
think it's
good,
all
good.
definitely related to bravery and everything. But for anybody who's listening who wants to do the brave thing in their business, maybe start the podcast, or,
Mhm,
like maybe they have to go and get a part-time job as well, or any
mhm.
of those kinds of things, or even, like they want to move or change up something in their life, but they're kind of, I don't know, struggling, they're holding back, they like don't want to pull the trigger, they find themselves stuck. What kind of advice do you have for that person from your perspective?
I think it's really easy for us to all think of, I don't know, what comes to mind for me is like, what will people say? It's kind of like a when we post online thing. And I think it's really easy to think of what would be worst case scenario and like what the worst criticism could possibly be, either from yourself or from somebody else about the situation. And so what I think is imagine your biggest cheerleader. If that's somebody you know, awesome.
Yeah.
Or if it's a celebrity who says things that you admire, or like a character, imagine your biggest cheer, or maybe it's made up. Maybe you think of it in your head. Your biggest cheerleader, what would they say? Yes, you can do it. Of course you can do it. Why wouldn't you do that? And that sounds like so much fun. And I would love to see you perform on stage, Tiffany. I would love to see like what happens for you when you move to New York. And
Yeah.
what would your biggest cheerleader say? And just hold on to that. Hold
Yeah.
on to that. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Oh, okay, I'm gonna be doing that actually. I mean, I kind of have a natural cheerleader kind of thing, but yeah, I could definitely have do more visualizing it. Yeah.
I use that when I first was feeling uncomfortable about posting up because I was doing social media management before, and there was a lot of women who felt insecure about sharing themselves online. And what would people say? And what if I don't like the way I look on camera? And that was the tool that I used
Mm.
to help there, because especially online, it's so easy to think of every possible criticism because you
Yes.
are not just sharing it with three people and you know what their reaction is going to be. You're sharing it with everybody, and it could be, every possible reaction. And so then you have to pick who you're focusing on. It's the same thing as picking your target audience. Your target audience for your dreams is your cheerleaders.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so true. Oh, I love that so much. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and just sharing your brave stories and, your transition and all the brave things you've got going on. I know that this conversation definitely has impacted me, and yeah, it's going to be playing in my head for quite some time to come.
Yeah.
We, of course, will have links to all of your awesome stuff in the show notes, but for people who are like me, who are like, screw the show notes, I'm just going to Instagram where
Yes.
where uh where how you know the answer. Yeah.
People can find me on Instagram at podcast manager Andrea. Andrea is Andrea. That is the best way to get in touch with me. You can also email me at andrea@andreaentz.com, but just go to my Instagram. That's just better, and we can chat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you so much, Andrea. This has been an awesome conversation, and
Yay.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad that we got together and we were able to chat. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
If you're tired of posting content that doesn't bring in clients, join me for the One Sentence Stories workshop happening April 30. It's just $24 with code STORIES25. You'll leave with content that connects and converts. Details are at bit.ly/stories April 30, all lowercase, no spaces, no underscores, or you can find the link in the show notes. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee if it's not helpful. Hope to see you there. Thanks for listening to the Business Bravery podcast. Has this episode inspired you to do something brave? Even if it's only send a difficult email, please share it with me on Instagram or other social media channels. Feel free to tag me at Tiffany G Studios. That's TIFFANY. G for golf, STUDIOS, no spaces, no underscores, etc. Or you can use the hashtag Business Bravery Podcast so that I can cheer you on, and together we can inspire other coaches and course creators to do brave things in their business and life. Now, I'm Tiffany, and I'll leave you with this one last thing. What's one brave thing you're going to do today? It doesn't have to be big. Even the smallest steps can create the most massive results. So again, feel free to share it with me either publicly or privately so that I can cheer you on. That's it from me. Until next time, bye for now.